All right. So started doing these little chalk talks last semester, actually in the summer with sports psych, and I think they went really well. This one's actually also just going to be a little different. It's just me. I have something put together for you. And I was actually talking with Chet about this earlier. I do a little consulting on the side with teams and some boards and organizations. But one of the things that I talk with teams a lot about is this idea of followership. And so what I thought we would do today, which hopefully, I don't know if you know this about me or not yet, I'm not a big lecturer. I'm not going to stand up here and just talk at you. I like the engagement interaction. So I thought I would put you through kind of like a pseudo workshop of what I would do if I was working with a team, as best as we could. So y'all are gonna be participants. If you weren't ready for that, hop off now. Okay. Have y'all had a chance? I know we're like a little over halfway with the module, but have you had a chance to do any of the reading or look at the resources on followership yet? And if you have, like, what are some of your thoughts? Takeaways, surprises, anything?
I mean, I think the stuff that they're saying about followership is at least the fundamental side of things, stuff that I've heard before, which is good. Consistency is always good in that sense. Kind of like leadership. Leaders don't exist without followers, and the importance of the follower, and why leaders are around, not to toot their own horn, but to lead followers in a direction and in a path and stuff. So there's my general thought.
Yeah. Did you get to watch the first follower video about the dancing guy?
Those the two dancers?
No, that was the tango. The other one was like the Derek Silver's YouTube talk where the guy's out in the crowd at the concert dancing by himself.
Oh yeah, great video. I love it.
Yeah, but it's kind of like what you said. If that guy doesn't have followers and he's just a lone nut out there dancing, right? Like by himself doing his own thing. So
right. Takes so much courage to be that first dancer, but look at what he started.
And even the second one, I think too, which
oh yeah,
when you talk about being on a team, to be the player that steps up, or on a staff to be the person that steps up and says, yeah, I'm hitching myself to your wagon, right? Like I'm gonna go out there and support you. That's a big step too.
Yeah, a lot of bravery.
Anybody else?
Yeah, we met as a group last night, and I thought it was interesting that one of the perspectives that was really predominant out there was that, while we shouldn't necessarily overhype the leaders, we don't give followers enough credit for also being leaders in their own little pockets. And so it's really this two-way street, the leadership, followership piece, which has a lot to do with the other theories that we're reading this week. Is we're trying to, like, through relationship, really empower people as followers to also be leaders, as long as you're sort of swimming with the current of the organization.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and we'll touch on several of the things that you just said, Ryan, when we get to the PowerPoint here in a little bit. So yeah, well, let's get started. So I'm going to share my screen. Or not. Where'd you go? Sorry, guys, it's disappeared. Here we go. All right. Okay. I'm also going to try. I like to be able to see all of you. And for those of you that are just doing audio, like, please don't feel like you have to change your plan because you really didn't know what you're walking into. So we're going to talk about followership today. And I kind of want to just, in the spirit of still continuing to try to get to know you, and also just for those of you out there looking for new things to maybe do with your teams, your people, here's a little fun icebreaker. For those of you that want to, what is your favorite meal? And if you were a kitchen appliance, as a leader, what would you be and why? And so what do I mean by that? So a spatula is not an appliance. Okay, that's usually where people get thrown off. So let's just remember what an appliance actually is. So in thinking of what you like to eat, and if you were a kitchen appliance, what would you be and why? Who would like to go first? I would say that I'm a microwave because I have been a believer in efficiency for a really long time. So
Yeah, Jenna, I would disagree with you. I would actually go with like a slow cooker, because I like to see like process and things really take shape over the course of time. And if I feel like I'm rushing, especially like team building, culture building, then kind of we're opening ourselves up sometimes to spaghetti explosions.
I like it. Yep. No, don't get me wrong. I'm gonna make some pork nachos this weekend for the game and a slow cooker that are gonna be ridiculous. So
Nice.
who else?
I think I would go with maybe an air fryer.
Okay.
And I think it's just because there's a lot of different things you can do with an air fryer, and it's kind of like a newer appliance, I guess. I feel like it gets a lot done, so in an efficient amount of time. So it's similar to a microwave, but there's also a lot of different things you can do with it than just reheat food, I guess.
I'll be making French fries in mine tonight, actually, after this call. So who else?
I'm gonna say all of my favorite meals involve just like throwing things together. Like I like Mexican bowls and like chow mein and stuff like that. I like throwing all the things together. But if I was an appliance, because of that, I would be a blender because I like to just take everything, put it together. It's loud, it's chaotic, but at the end, it tastes pretty good most of the time.
I like it, Destiny.
I'd probably be a toaster oven, because let's think about it, right? As a leader, I hope to be leading others, and bagels by itself is pre-made, right? The bagel itself or normal bread has a lot going for it already. Just as a leader, I want to come in and start leading people who hopefully have a lot going for them. But when you put that bagel in the toaster and it pops out all crisp and brown, it's just made a little bit better, a little bit sweeter. And as a leader, I would hope to have that impact on somebody throughout my experience.
I like it, Chet. Are you a toaster oven or you like drop it in the toaster?
Oh, such a good question. It's funny. I'm getting married in December, and I had to talk to my fiance about this to put which one on the registry. I convinced her to get a toaster oven. There's more uses out of the toaster oven, so it's more applicable.
True story. Like in first grade, we had to come up with an invention, and mine was like tongue compressors with a rubber band to grab things out of a toaster. That was mine.
That's awesome. I don't know why that doesn't exist yet.
I'm pretty sure those are just called tongs, but so.
Put on your tongue.
Anybody else want to share? No pressure. Just kind of breaking the ice a little bit.
I want to say, I don't think anyone's touched on the meal. Since I moved to Clemson, I think it's the lemon pepper wings from SO. Try to go there once a week. Really good and really bad for me. But I just want to say that. And then I would want to say, would you say refrigerator is a good one? I think, you put things into a refrigerator to like last longer, or maybe maintain its stability for how it's made. As a leader, I like things to be very, very stable. I like things to be, if you're supposed to be able to, if the instructions include to put it in a refrigerator, or like to keep it from not, going bad, or to keep it from, lacking off, I would say a refrigerator does a good job at that. Just like players, or like, you got to keep them working out, or keep them reminded of values, things like that. And so I don't know, maybe I'm reaching a little too far, but I think that would probably be mine.
I think you're great. You want to keep things as long as you can. Don't let them go bad. I think it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off. I was thinking refrigerator as well, just because, for instance, if your refrigerator breaks or whatever, all things in it go bad. As like a leader, I like to be the one. I like to have the responsibility of making sure everything else is fine. And obviously, like if something were to go like wrong, I would like to be the one responsible, to be showing and like caring for trying to solve the problem, not trying to be part of it. So refrigerator, it has to be running so there's no problems happening.
We got 2 refrigerators. Hey, if you lose power in your house and your refrigerator is out for a while, nobody wants that. We all need the refrigerator. Okay. All right. Anybody else before we move on? Craig? Craig, I can't hear you. Can anybody else?
No, I can't either.
I'm literally having this conversation about the power being out and not opening the refrigerator with my 5-year-old right now because we ran out of power. Like our power went out about an hour ago.
Oh,
And so we're having that same conversation. So I appreciate you, Will. Keep things fresh, man.
Craig, I'm not sure what's going on. You can hear us?
It might be something with your headphones, Craig.
Yeah. Does your headphones have a microphone on it?
It's like Verizon. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say I was going to be a professional 6-quart KitchenAid mixer. And I guess the reason why it's got a lot of utility to it.
Chad, is that on your registry?
No, but gosh, I think it should be.
Yeah, it should. Okay, so we got a little bit of variety. I like it. Let's roll along. This is just real quick to kind of set the stage. What are things that you think about, like just general word associations when you think about leader, leading, follower, following? Like when you think about leader, what do you think about? Just shoot some off. There's no wrong answer here.
Confidence.
Confidence.
Results.
Yep.
Knowledge.
What else?
Approachability.
Okay.
Servant.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, retweet.
Oh, y'all can't wait to that servant leadership module. I know.
Personable.
Vision.
Personable, vision. Okay. What about follower?
Willing.
Willing,
Humble.
humble,
Loyalty.
Disruptive.
Teachable.
anything else?
Contributing.
Okay. And when you think about the dynamic between the two, what comes to mind?
Partnership.
Okay.
I think of a circle, like a yin yang.
Okay. Ryan, you're living my life, so don't worry about the future.
Yeah, like I coached until 5. I picked my kid up, my daughter up from ballet. My son just walked in the house. We have no power. I've got to leave for a meeting in like 10 minutes. Love it. Every minute of it.
Well, we're glad you're with us.
Me too.
Anything else in the dynamic? We got partnership, circle, yin yang. Okay.
Balance. I
Balance.
would just say, like, I don't know if there's a thing, but balance.
Okay. No,
That
that's
works with the yin
Like
yang.
the
really
scale
well.
thing.
definitely goes yin yang. Got it. Okay. I just wanted to kind of, it kind of helps paint a picture of maybe where everybody's at with these different topics. So let's debate this. I have a couple of different pairings out here. And so there's gonna think like 4 or 5 of them. So Dory and Marlon, if you don't know these characters, that's your fault. But Dory and Marlin from Finding Nemo. The question is that we're debating is out of the two, which one has the most influence on the direction of the team? Who influenced the direction of the team of Dory and Marlin more, and why?
I feel like Marlon is more the direction here because I mean it's his vision, right? It's his quest, it's what he's trying to get to. And he's also the one who always has to redirect Dory.
Okay, and I would counter with, they don't know the address of where they're going if Dory can't read.
And they don't keep going unless Dory just keeps swimming.
See, Destiny, I told you we're coming back to it. So if the question isn't direction of the team, maybe I should say the outcome, okay? The outcome of their, we'll say mission, or, you know, and that'll probably change, but what the outcome of the team, right? Who has more influence, Marlin or Dory?
I would
I
say
think,
very equal.
oh, sorry, Jalen. No, I don't know. I'm not used to Zoom. I think inadvertently Dory, because Marlin has to react and decide based off of Dory's whims and craziness.
Okay. Who else?
Yeah, I definitely feel like he's kind of there to guide in a security sense when they run into things, but she's so like crafty because she's not worried about anything around her, just kind of like her mission. So I think they both like work really well together to kind of control the output, but Dory's just not thinking too much about it.
Ooh, this is hard just because I think they both bring different things to the table, right? Without Marlin, you have no why. You have no reason for the traveling or the story or the relationships, right? So Marlin's like the undercoat, like pushing. This is why we're doing it. But Dory is bringing all of the tangible things. You know, she's the one with all the friends, making friendships, the memorization, and can read. And is like Drea was just talking about, like super crafty and laughing, and everyone seems to like her. So without either one, you have no story. There is no journey.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know which one's more important.
Well, Marlin has the direction, the vision, and the why, the purpose. Dory has the personality and the enthusiasm and the excitement that kind of keeps the journey going, right?
How, right.
Yeah, exactly. Like she has the necessary skill set to get Marlin where he needs to be. Okay, next one, because we could keep going. Oh, hang on. Anybody watch Gilmore Girls? Sarah, what do you think, Sarah?
This is one that I actually know because I actually had to Google who Marlin was, to be completely honest.
What change is that when you babysit?
So in terms of Rory and Lorelai, I would say Rory almost kind of has the why of what's going on. And I guess every episode is so different, but at the end of the day, it's Rory trying to get to Yale, Rory trying to graduate this private school, and Lorelai is just kind of there, but she also is supplying with the parents who pay for everything. She pays for everything at home, the house. And I feel like she does kind of feed into the whole, she brings the humor just like Dory did. She brings a lot of the other things alongside the journey, I guess. But then Rory kind of brings, like, not to get into too much detail, but like the boys and like the different relationships and things like that. So this is one I know.
I think they definitely have moments as mother and daughter of leading and following each other. Like it's very back and forth. So it's a pretty, I think, less than Marlin and Dory, because Marlin was on the path. I think theirs is a lot more mutual partnership. Anybody else have Gilmore Girl comments? Guys? Okay. Here we go. Jordan Pippen. Who had the most impact on the Bulls' outcome?
I think the average guy can say, you know, MJ is like MJ, but like Scottie Pippen, like I don't think MJ literally said that he wouldn't win any championships without Scottie. And so MJ wouldn't be the GOAT and you know, I know that's up for debate, but like MJ wouldn't be the GOAT without Scottie there. And so I think Scotty really has that major impact. Now, am I saying Scotty could go win 6 championships by himself? Of course not. But like, there's a reason that MJ said that he wouldn't win anything without him. So I think Scotty would definitely have a little more influence, but also, of course, he can't win by himself. So one without the two.
But I'm really torn here because like we saw what happened in '96 when, you know, Scotty can't even get down the floor. He scores like what, 12 points and they win because of his presence. And so you see like his massive impact there, but then he seems to be like a real detractor in Michael's absence, especially with the whole like coup coach debacle. I mean, I think that they're not congruent or parallel leaders, but I think that they, as leaders, sort of elevate each other and thus everybody around them.
For this one, for me, I most definitely see the dynamic. Just for everyone else's knowledge, I've probably watched The Last Dance 5 times all the way through, and I was born over the NBA finals when Jordan was playing and stuff. So I have a lot of respect for this duo, but their dynamic, honestly, is what made that Bulls team successful. I think without one or the other, it wouldn't have been the dynasty that it was at the time.
Yeah, I mean, they could be the best example on this, definitely on this slide, of the complementary captains, you know, for lack of a better way of putting it, but just having those players in leadership position that as a leadership team were the most effective, right? Okay, we're gonna move on. I think I have 2 more. Okay, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and the Civil Rights Movement. Go.
I feel like this one was tough because they both led in impactful ways, but differently. Like Martin Luther King had the platform, he had the ability to reach people through his words and be that charismatic leader. Whereas Rosa Parks, her leadership is primarily known through an action. So I feel like it's hard to say who is the more prominent leader between the two, because they both had huge impacts, but in different ways.
If you
I
watch,
feel like
yeah, go ahead.
I feel like this one is kind of similar to like the perception of Jordan and Scotty, like what you see outwardly versus what's going on behind the scenes and what impact one situation may have versus overall like continuous work towards civil rights and things like that. Again, it's a duo in a way, just those chains of events that lead to a certain outcome. But it's very different.
Yeah, I think if you watch the TED Talk, Derek Silver says at some point, he says something about the first follower being the flint that creates the spark of the, you know, something like that. And I think that's when he says that, I think Rosa Parks, like, who knows the direction the civil rights movement takes if Rosa Parks gets out of her seat, right? And so I think about her having that specific role in the movement. Anybody else comments on this one? I think there might be one more. Oh, I think there is. What you got, Sarah?
I was just kind of similar to what you were saying. Without Rosa's actions, there wouldn't be the bus boycott that Martin Luther King created because of that. So they did complement each other in a way, and like hers was more outward, but he used his own platform to help elevate her actions, I guess.
Agreed. Last one. Who has the greatest influence? usually what happens is all the dudes pick Jay and all the women pick Bay. So
I think it definitely depends on who more of a fan you are. I think when Beyonce dropped her Lemonade album, I think that's when she became the bigger influencer, just because of the rumors and all that stuff. But like at the same time, like Jay-Z being Jay-Z, when I think they both came up at the same time and things like that, and that's a tough one. That really is a tough one because I don't know. I think Jay-Z, just because he was the guy that came up, and then when they started dating, it was Jay-Z's dating Beyonce. I don't think people were saying Beyonce was dating Jay-Z. I was a little young at the time, I think, when that all happened, but that's how I recall it.
Now, if you give them their respect in their respective categories, you can associate JC more so with like the rap culture and the coming up of certain things in hip hop and things like that. But then you think of Beyonce in a woman group, and then showing up as a forerunner in that group and being dynamic for women, being individualistic and developing their own music. Like, she's a pinnacle of confidence and just like a pioneer in that sector, for the early 2000s, 90s, things like that. So I'm not going to actually choose. Just going to leave it at that.
I think it's tough too, because they don't let each other define themselves and like their influence. They let themselves define their own influence. So in their own respect, like you said, Destiny, Jay-Z controls a lot in rap culture. Beyonce controls a lot in women's culture, but she also has her own influence in music. He has their own, like, no one's mixing up the two. They both have their own influence, and they both speak on different, like, sing, rap on different aspects of culture, and being a woman and being an African-American male in both respects, I guess.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, I was gonna say I think they both had different messages from the beginning, and they keep it very like individual, and their influence is very individual, like you said. But they both elevate each other so much, like they're each other's like hype people, basically. So I feel like they elevate each other's messages while keeping their own individual ones, which is a super cool dynamic.
I think those are really great points. If you are teaching or coaching a high school team or working with, like, throw this picture up on a slide and just see what happens. Just the conversation that have been a part of using them as in this presentation has been pretty insightful. You'll learn a lot about your group. I was trying to find out that they also some company just like rebranded, and they are the face of the company. And I can't remember who it is. Does anybody know? I'll have to find out, but anyway. Okay, so the other kind of part, I'm a big believer in followership. I told you that early on. And part of this whole thing for me started when I was running Girls Place in Gainesville, and I was doing my dissertation on authentic leadership, and I had little girls standing up saying, my mom told me to be a leader, not a follower. And I'm looking at this little girl and I'm like, is that setting you up for success? I don't know, And so I think by not teaching followership, we're really doing a disservice to our youth. And followership matters. We spend every day of our lives following people on social media and having people follow us back, right? And so if I were to pull up someone's Instagram, I don't do Snapchat or TikTok, but if I looked at your Instagram or your Twitter, and I just simply looked at who was following you and who you were following, I would know things about you right away without ever having met you. Okay. So if you were doing this with the group, one thing you would do is just pass some phones around and see, right? Just ask people to look and just see what they would be able to pick up on it, or have them look at their own. And how would people describe you based on who you're following and who's following you, right? I'd be able to tell probably where you were from. I'd be able to tell probably where you went to high school, maybe who some of your friends are, that family is important to you. That you love sports. You would know that I follow Dan Levy, so I watch Schitt's Creek on Instagram. music you like, the celebrities that you like, the causes that you're passionate about, right? So just another little slide, just kind of, if you're taking notes on maybe doing some of this stuff with your group, of another point to drive home, right? About how followership matters. So followership matters in your experiences. So a few slides for you, then I'm going to put you into some breakout groups, probably just 2, since there's like 9 of you, I think. But a couple key points about followership for me. The power of followership is learning to follow teaches us how to lead. I think some of you have already talked about that. If we're not as leaders, if we don't have followers, then we're not really leading anyone. But part of our responsibility is to develop the people that are following us, so that they are, eventually ready to do what we're doing, to go and lead somewhere else on their own, right? Like one of my greatest accomplishments in my life is when I left Girls Place, the woman who was my right hand, who really should have been running it the whole time, but didn't apply when I got the job because she didn't have the confidence, is now running the place. And that, to me, I feel like I helped her with that, right? So learning to follow teaches us how to lead. Emphasizing followerships gives everyone a role on the team. Not everybody wants to be a leader, and that's okay. I think we have to kind of help folks with that. But just because you're not a leader, if you're the, let's just say 80%, that's not a captain or designated senior executive assistant, whatever, athletic director, you're not off the hook for the direction that the team is going. You're still responsible for where the team is heading and how they're going about getting there. So followership still puts responsibility on those members of your team. Yeah, not everyone wants to be a leader or should be. I think we know that some people really just shouldn't be leading. Some people are better off being that first follower, right? Being the number one cheerleader on a team, being the kid that, and I just always use these examples because this is usually the situation I'm in when talking about this, but being the kid who hosts all the official visits because they're exceptional at that, right? So also, without followers, there'd be no movements. We've kind of hit on that already, and that everyone leads and then follows and leads at some point. And y'all talked about that earlier. I think Ryan brought it up. But even the leaders, and I'll use my wife as an example, she's the head coach, so she's leading a team. She still has a boss though, and her boss has a boss, right? She reports to her sports supervisor, who reports to the AD. And so everyone is kind of fluid within those two positions. I'm leading y'all. I still have to report and get rehired every year, basically. So, we need to know how to follow well, and you need to know how to lead well. Both those things matter to do both the same time. So I'm going to put you into groups, and I'm going to leave these up here, and I just want you to chat for a little bit. You don't have to talk about each one of them, but if you want to take turns, maybe speaking about experiences that you've had in these or anything else that comes up, this is not an exclusive list, but just chat a little bit. I'll give you maybe like 3 or 5 minutes. Okay. And we'll come back. If I can do this, breakout rooms. All right, everybody's back. Hopefully everybody got a chance to share. I'm not trying to rush you. We're just kind of coming up on the hour part. Anybody have anything that they want to share or we want to keep moving? So the other thing I want you to think about, and we're going to go, you'll have time a little bit later to talk about this, but like, who would your like follower examples be? My ideal follower is in fact Dory. I think kind of the reasons that we've already discussed. I don't think Marlon gets to Sydney without her. I think that her personality and her enthusiasm really helps propel him on his mission. And so she is my ideal follower. So you'll have a chance to kind of talk about that when we do our last round of breakout sessions. So you also, I've referenced this a couple of times about the TED Talk, and I'm going to share these slides too when I post our recording on Canvas, so you'll have them. But I've used First Follower a lot with some teams. I've given you some examples, but a lot of times I use it with teams, especially when they have young teams, like a lot of freshmen coming in. So that's usually when coaches want to talk about this. These are some other questions that you can use that are associated with that First Follower Dancing Guide TED Talk. So just wanted to bring those to your attention. And then I thought you would also find this interesting is kind of different types of followers, right? There's 5 different types of followers. I think if you really take a second and look, the 2 big questions is, independence versus more dependent, uncritical thinking, a passive, a more active style of following. And so, a sheep is someone quite dependent on the leader and is pretty passive in how they follow, just kind of blind following. Yes, people are very active, but again, are just doing what they're told and not really thinking for themselves. Alienated followers, very passive, but can think for themselves. I would kind of consider them to be that one player that you always really need to keep an eye on. Keep your friends close, your enemies closer. That might be your alienated kind of follower. So really disengaged and passive, but has a lot of ideas. They're not afraid to maybe share when the leader's not around. And then the effective followers, very active, can think for themselves, have their own ideas, lead themselves really well. And then you have these survivors that just kind of like find a way to grind it out, right? They just kind of find a way to survive and to stay a part of it without really ever identifying themselves any kind of way. You might want to call them wallflowers, so to say. A food for thought with this is you kind of maybe try and start identifying yourself and the type of followers that you would want on your team is, are these different styles more effective in certain situations? Can you adjust and adapt so that you are a little bit more effective in what the situation calls for? So what I want to do is I'm going to put you back into groups, hopefully different ones, one more time. And these are some of the questions. These are the questions I want you to kind of work through. I'm rushing now because I wanted to give you a little bit more time for this because I feel like this is more of the application piece. So which type of follower are you? Like, where do you see yourself? And I will say that I think that in situations where things are going really well, you're probably in one of those quadrants. And then maybe when things aren't going your way, whether that's a bad day or you've just gotten some poor news or you just don't feel like it or whatever's going on where you just don't feel like your best self, you might slide or adjust to a different one, right? And so that might be something we're talking about, and then just kind of work your way through some of those other questions. So I'm going to give you about 10 minutes for this, or 8 minutes, probably a little bit longer, so you have more time to talk. Okay. How'd that go? Yeah? Anything surprising? Anything in common?
I'll say in our group, we found that, sorry, I just saw the other two people in my group, that none of us are sheep by any means. We all tend to be kind of yes people. Just as we're getting acclimated to new environments, new things, and knowing where we are in proximity to the other people we're working with.
I once heard Kevin Eastman, who was a longtime assistant for the Celtics, he told a story about a yes person, about this young like intern working for a team and just constantly saying yes and yes and yes. And you need, what do you need? Yes, yes, just always. He was that guy, and that was Eric Spoelstra. So I don't think that that's like, I think maybe sometimes yes, people like you think of them not having a mind of their own, or they're just people pleasers, or they're sucking up, or whatever you want. Like there's some negative connotations there, but I think that I disagree with that, right? I think especially when you're starting out and you're trying to figure it out, like saying yes and trying new things is a good way to do it. So anything else from y'all's conversations?
I think we also kind of came to the consensus that the type of follower we are depends on the type of leader we're under. So a lot of us were a lot of us in our group were GAs, I think. Yeah. And we were yes people, but when Destiny was speaking to her athletes, she was an effective leader to them. And then when I was speaking to my boss or supervisor, I was a yes person, but that leader also helped me become more collaborative and give my input, so I was more effective. It really just depends on who your leader is.
I think that's an important point, Sarah, too, because when you are, and not everybody, maybe not everybody has this luxury, right? But when you are interviewing and you are trying to figure out where you want to work, also who you want to work for, like who you follow in your career matters. Like if you're not in alignment from a value standpoint, from a vision standpoint, that dynamic's not going to go very well. Probably you're probably going to be interviewing again really soon. Because also when you, as a follower, I believe that if you are with a leader, those leaders' decisions are also going to be associated with you. So making sure that you're in alignment is a key part of following and following well. So for the young folks out there, for the GAs, y'all are all young folks to me. I don't know, is Craig still on here? Craig, we're holding down the fort. Yep. But just something to consider, right? Like, and we're going to talk about personal values. We'll get into all that in the class, but just another point to make. So we're going to end with this. Is everybody, I see Will's on their phone, but so this might be, we might not do it this way. I do have a little fun little poll situation we could use, but I would like in just one word, following well means ... in one word. What does it mean to you to follow well? I would say following well to me means adapt.
Jalen, I'm going to steal your word. Teachability.
Teachability. Okay. I like it.
Listen.
Your impact, yes.
Sorry, Craig, what was yours?
Yeah, Craig, did you say something?
Yeah, I said trust.
Trust. Okay.
I'll say buying in.
That's 2 words, but we'll let it go.
I'll say buy.
Loyalty.
Okay. Jalen, you got anything?
I'll steal Chet's word, humility.
Humility. Okay. All right. I think that's everybody. Josh, you get one in?
Yeah, I did. Sorry, I'm eating dinner.
No, go for it. I'm about to go start cooking. I'm jealous. All right. So I don't know if every Chalk Talk's gonna be this way, you know. I transitioned to leadership class from a 1 module class to a 2 module, so I'm definitely like rebuilding it. But I mean, I like this. I'd welcome your feedback. Hopefully it's a little bit better than me just talking to you or you having to watch another video. But I always kind of end with this quote, that he or she or they who cannot be a good follower cannot be a good leader. I think that kind of speaks to you knowing who you are, and you also being a great teammate, right? And knowing how to communicate and be part of something more than yourself. So Aristotle's been around a little while, so I think maybe we're on to something. What do you think? Anybody have any questions for me on course content or on the topic before we go? I'm gonna stop sharing because I like being able to see all of you guys.
I was just wondering, I'm about to get in my DB group. For the first question, it's the guest speaker. This might be a bad question, but I was just wondering how I can, have we already done that guest speaker appearance?
Those were the 3 people, the 3 ADs on the module. So
Oh,
Dan,
sweet.
Dan,
Okay.
Mike, and Jill. So from their talks.
Great. Awesome. Appreciate it.
Yep. Anybody else have any questions? Good. Okay. Yeah,
This
it's
is great.
great.
Thanks, Jenna.
Destiny, I agree. It's definitely good to meet some of you and see new faces and see some familiar ones too. So thanks for hopping on and have a good night. Okay.